How seriously this early in the season do we take what's happening in Buffalo?
Well, it's interesting because doing the Amerks games, I was having a conversation with my counterpart, Don Stevens, and he reminded me that last year, he said in the first 24 games, he asked, do you know what their record was? And not a clue. He said 17-6-1 the first 24 games last season. I went, so, it kind of deflates that a little bit, but the thing is, it's a good place to start and keep working forward towards, and hopefully they can keep it going.
But I think anybody that watches hockey last year, because that counts the 10-game winning streak going up to Thanksgiving with that 17-6-1 last season, right? It was the way they were winning games last year versus the way they're winning games now, where you're winning games throughout 2/3 of the game, right? Where most of those games they were winning last year, they're going into overtime, they're catching backup goalies, you're getting the right bounces. The Sabres this season are winning without catching bounces, which is something that I have not been used to over the last 10 years. On top of that, what tells me this might be different is you're winning games without needing contributions from guys that you didn't expect. Like the last couple of years, you hoped Tage Thompson was going to be something, and if you got your goal, that was great. Evan Rodriguez was a legitimate player on this roster. Well, Tage is down in Rochester playing great. Evan Rodriguez has been a healthy scratch for the majority of the season. You got guys like Johansson that are showing up and contributing. It looks like a real hockey team, right?
Is this the kind of thing that, like the nature of hockey, that a team can go from where Buffalo was the last however many years and just like all of a sudden with largely the same number of players become good?
Well, I think there's another part to this too, and I think it's the development of some players. I mean, if you look at Olsen, he got 6-7 goals this year as a rookie. Here's a guy here that spent some time in Rochester, spent time with Chris Taylor. I think Chris Taylor's been doing an excellent job here in Rochester, and I think it's starting to pay off for the Rochester organization. For years, the cupboard was bare. There was no hopefuls, no draft picks, high hopes that the riding in Rochester. This place was just decimated of prospects. And I think you're starting to see that now, guys coming down. Some of these guys, like you said, with Rodriguez now, all spent some time in Rochester. They all started learning from Taylor, and they all started moving up the ladder. Some got moved up sooner than they should have. And I think they've kind of petered out a little bit. They didn't get the full learning experience. And also and the problem that you have when you draft 18-year-olds, some of your 18-year-olds are the best they're ever going to be at 18. They don't go any further. That's why you see so many undrafted players that step into the lineup. And I always go back to the same one. I marked this kid as soon as he stepped on the ice in Rochester. He was with Florida at the time, Jason Garrison. I said, this kid is going to the NHL. He had all the tools, and he's had a great NHL career. But there are other guys I've seen out there that I'm going, really? They drafted him? And you talk to the scouts, because I get a chance to talk to him in the press box, and they say he was the best available at that time. And he just didn't go anywhere after that.
So two coaches. Ralph Kruger, how much is he influencing this whole picture? And what are they doing with Chris Taylor? I don't kind of get that.
Well, Granato's out right now. We don't know what he's had a serious illness. And they, instead of hiring someone, they just brought Chris Taylor up to fill his spot. I don't think we're going to see Tails back with this trip going on the way they're riding the rail right now. I don't think we'll see him back. And Gordon Dineen's been an AHL coach before. He's been around. He knows the game, and his team's not doing bad either. And he's been under Taylor for a while now, so he understands what's going on as well. But the big thing when you're an AHL coach is you have to adapt to the NHL coach's system. So you're always changing. If the NHL coach wants to play a different system and you're used to playing this way, you've got to adapt, because you've got to train those players so when they move up, that they automatically fill right in and know what's going on.
So the last thing, do you find yourself like perched on the edge saying, oh, I'm just waiting for this to fall apart? Or do you see hope?
I do see hope, and here's the difference. Last season when that 10-game win streak finished up, and even in between it, right? Like every loss, every setback was devastating. Whereas I'm finding myself now in games where they're not playing up to their potential or games that they're losing, there are things that I like. There are things that give me hope moving forward. I don't think the world is ending when Carter Hutton gives up 6 goals in a night, or when you end up blowing a 2-goal lead to Arizona, because there are other things that I'm seeing. And we're going to find out. The schedule gets really, really tough coming up starting this week. After the next 5 games, we'll see, is this team a legitimate contender?
Yeah, they go into it. Heck, there's only one team in the NHL that's got more points. Last thing.
But there's a good point here to be brought, and I was at the game the other night against Arizona, and I was talking with a couple of my alumni. And the point they brought up was how they rebounded after the bad loss on the West Coast to come back and win the next 2. including a shutout in there. That they didn't sit and lull over it. They bounced back, and we all agreed that's a great sign.